Hope everyone's able to join us this morning. We're going to be talking about China's new toothpaste filing regulations. I'm Victoria Caldy, the Business Development and Marketing Director, and Jeff has now just joined us. That's great news. Our Cosmetics Regulatory and Affairs Director, live from Beijing. So we'll get started. So what we're going, just a couple of questions and a little information about ourselves. We're a provider of regulatory affairs, quality assurance, clinical research, product testing and safety certification services for China and Hong Kong only. That's our focus. And we have over 20 years experience in these markets. We cover various sectors, medical devices and IVDs, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, which is one of the topics obviously we're looking at today with toothpaste, as well as health foods and supplements, industrial goods and consumer goods as well. We have our own in-house team and we help you accelerate your time to market and maintain full control of your product registrations and give you full transparency and clarity for budgeting and planning purposes.
Victoria does that. I just will say quickly, while she's doing so, I'm Hamish, I'm CEO at Kazema. We also have our colleague Jeff, who is joining us from Beijing. He's just been having some technical issues, but he's now here with us. And we're very pleased to be able to support you for China simplified filings of toothpaste products, which is a fast evolving area and an area in which we are seeing a lot of movement, and we hope we can enlighten you with some of the detail today. However, the regulations continue to evolve and will do over the next few weeks and months. With that, Victoria, back to you.
Great. It would be great.
I can see it now. Yes,
I can see now. Fantastic. Thank you for confirming on that. Okay. So that was just a little bit about ourselves. Looking at the agenda for today, we just have a quick 30 minutes here. So we're going to take a look at setting the scene in terms of the regulatory framework. We're going to look at the TSAR or the TSAR, which is very similar, obviously, to the CSAR, the draft regulation for toothpaste notifications, the recent simplified filing announcement, and some frequently asked questions on this new topic of toothpaste notification. So first of all, let's take a look at the regulatory framework. So here you can see that we have the CSAR up at the top, which was issued in January 2021. From which we've got quite a number already of cascading legislation, which covers everything from the good manufacturing practices, which were issued last July, through to very recent sampling inspection of cosmetics, as well as labeling information and sort of quality and safety responsibilities. Now, what was very recently released, it was actually released in March of this year, the CSAR. It was published then, but it only comes into effect on the 1st of December. So in obviously under a month now, we're in November. And what was also very recently released is the draft version of the toothpaste notification. That's the latest draft. There was one published about 2 years ago, but this is the most recent draft. That was published on the 25th of September, at the same time as the notice on simplifying the notification of already listed toothpaste in China. Now, in addition to that, we also have the cosmetics safety and technical standards. They were first issued came into effect in December 2016, and there's been about 8 drafts or revisions so far, with the latest draft in 2022. So why do we mention all of these various different legislation under the CSAR? Is the fact that toothpaste, while it isn't officially considered a cosmetic, it is actually governed by the CSAR. That is its overriding legislation. And some of this sort of additional cascading information, legislation such as labeling or the GMP, equally apply to toothpaste. So you need to be aware of the other legislation that has cascaded from the CSAR to be able to fully apply your toothpaste quality compliance and regulatory compliance. Okay, so let's take a look at the TSAR itself. So this was issued, as I said, back in March this year, and it stands for the Toothpaste Supervision and Administration Regulation. And it is officially Order 71, and as I mentioned, comes into effect on the 1st of December. It defines toothpaste as paste-like products which are used for cleaning human teeth. And it requires toothpaste to be notified or filed before marketing in China. It confirms that a notifying company or a filing company is fully responsible for the quality, safety, and efficacy claims of the toothpaste that is on the market. And overseas toothpaste notifying companies must appoint a responsible person in China. So that can be your own entity in China. It may also be a distributor, or it may be in a third-party company such as ourselves, Sizema, as a consulting company for regulatory and quality affairs in China. The approved toothpaste ingredients are likely to have a catalogue, just as the cosmetics has the IECIC, and it's also listed in the cosmetic standards. We'll have a list of approved raw materials for toothpaste, and that any new toothpaste raw materials that are submitted to the NMPA by companies and that actually pass the safety monitoring without any incident can then be incorporated into this list. But at the moment, the toothpaste ingredients catalogue hasn't been issued. The toothpaste is going to be categorized based on efficacy. And these efficacies still haven't been finalized, although in the draft regulation that we'll see, there are certain efficacies that have already been mentioned, such as obviously basic cleaning, anti-dentin sensitivity, and whitening, etc. Toothpaste product names must also follow a very specific format to prevent any confusion in for the end consumer who's going to purchase and use the product. And all toothpaste labels must have obviously product information, but importantly, safety warnings, and there's other required details as well. And finally, there is a specific mention about toothpaste for children that must meet specific standards and specific labeling requirements, and we'll have a look at these as well. So the draft regulation for toothpaste notifications. Now, obviously, the CSAR comes into effect on the 1st of December. So we are expecting the final regulation to be issued at some point this month. However, in this last draft, which is obviously getting close to the final version that was issued in September, it states that toothpaste actually only has the possibility at this point in time to submit a notification or filing. For those of you who are familiar with cosmetics, in cosmetics we have two main categories. One is general cosmetics and one is special cosmetics. A filing or notification can be submitted for general cosmetics, whereas a special cosmetics require a registration. It could be expected that toothpaste may also have a registration possibility in the future for what could be considered special toothpastes, but we know we need to wait and see whether that indeed will happen. So in terms of submitting this notification and filing, obviously there is a toothpaste filing information form. You'll have to submit company and the manufacturing company information if indeed you outsource your manufacturing to a third party. If you are appointing a domestic responsible person in China, you will require authorization letters for that. You will also need to submit the resume or the CV of the person who is in charge of quality and safety in your company and also at the manufacturing company if you outsource. You'll need to provide an overview of your quality management system, as well as an overview of your adverse reaction monitoring and evaluation system. You'll also need to provide a copy of your overseas production certification documentation, such as your ISO 22716 certificate. And we'll cover this point a little bit more in detail later. You'll also need to submit internal inspection reports and safety assessments that you conduct on the product and the ingredients, as well as, of course, information about the product itself, its formula, the standards it meets, and the label. In terms of product names, it specifically states that you are required to explain the meaning of the trademark name, the generic name, any attributes and suffixes, and also the product name as a whole, what it means. So here, just to give you an example, for the brand Crest, which is a brightening white toothpaste. So here we have obviously our trademark name, we have our generic name of toothpaste, we have an attribute which is brightening and also white because it's obviously giving you a color as well. And also there's a suffix in terms of the flavor, so menthol flavor. So this needs to be submitted not only in English, but also in Chinese, unless you are indeed a Chinese company just filing from China. The draft notification also mentions that you need to provide obviously your product formula. That needs to be in the list of all the raw material names, the percentage content listed in decreasing order of content, the purpose of that use of that particular raw material. For example, is it a flavor? Is it a coloring, etc.? In terms of safety information for each raw material that is used, you will need to obviously obtain this from the raw material manufacturer, or it may also be provided from a literature search, could be research and testing that you have also conducted yourselves. And that will need to cover things such as the raw material specification, the safety substance risk controls, and any risk assessment conclusions that you have, as well as sensory indicators such as the color of the product or any odor, smells and flavors, etc., that are inherent in your product. You'll also need to give production information. So that is just a brief description of the process, such as feeding, mixing, filling, etc. And if you do subcontract to a third party for production, the Chinese use the term entrusted production. So for this, you will need to have a contract which specifically states the roles and responsibilities in terms of quality and safety, the people who are responsible for which parts of the production, if you've got several companies involved, etc. So all of that needs to be very well clarified and documented in a contract. In terms of the product labels, so here you will need to obviously provide on the label the notifying company itself, as well as any manufacturer's information if it's entrusted manufacturing. You'll also obviously have to provide the full ingredient and the net content. And if you have any ingredients that are less than 0.1% of the final weight, then you can list those simply as other trace ingredients, but it does have to be a specific mention on the label of other trace ingredients. You will also need to include usage instructions and any safety warnings, especially if there are particular user groups for your product, such as for children. As well as you can include other information such as storage conditions, etc. In terms of packaging for your filing, you will also need to provide a picture of your sales package. You'll need to provide the flat pack plans of that packaging, and as well as a 3-dimensional display of that packaging, as well as any inner packaging details. You'll also need to provide for your filing a product safety assessment, and that needs to be of each ingredient. It needs to be an assessment of any risk substances in particular, any risk control measures that you're taking, and a final safety assessment conclusion. You'll also need to provide information regarding the product that you're selling in terms of inspecting it for microbiological and physical and chemical tests, any toxicological test reports that you need to provide, depending on the claims that you make, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. And it is stated that in this particular draft, that the use of methods should be those that are specified in the safety and technical standards for cosmetics, which is what we mentioned in the earlier slide when we were looking at all the legislatory framework. And also in terms of efficacy evaluation reports, any evaluation should have a full scientific basis, and the efficacy evaluation methods include both human and non-human methods. So let's take a look at what the draft regulation actually says about children's toothpaste, because this is a very specific category for China. So this concerns any product that is aimed to be used by children of 12 years or younger. As I mentioned, it's still in the draft form, but toothpaste is considered to be used by children if you use words on the packaging, such as suitable for the whole population, for the whole family, if there's any mention of family or family pack size, etc., then that can be considered used for children. It may also be considered used for children if there's some kind of mention within the trademark itself, within the pattern and the design of the actual packaging, letters or any Chinese pinyin, numbers and symbols. All of this could potentially be considered used as a product used by children. Now, children's toothpaste products must have the toothpaste logo on the surface of the packaging, and it must be in a prominent place that's easy to see and easy to identify. Now here we have the children's cosmetics logo. As you can see here, we've actually crossed out the official text here, which does say in Chinese, children's cosmetics. And this will be released shortly by the NMPA. And it will have similar wording to the bottom here, which says children's toothpaste. So this logo must be present on the packaging and on the product itself. It should also include safety warning terms, and they need to be led by sort of introductory words such as attention or warning before the specific wording of the safety warning. And these safety warnings could be along the lines of should be used under adult supervision, not edible, or beware of swallowing, or something similar. Efficacy claims for children's products are restricted to 2 maximum, which is cleaning and anti-caries. And please note that for all toothpaste products to be able to successfully submit a filing, whether it's for children or for adults toothpaste, you must have a minimum of 1 claim. Okay, so here in this case, either the claim of cleaning and or anti-caries must be submitted. Now, children's toothpaste, just like children's cosmetics, unfortunately cannot avoid animal testing. So the claims to have cleaning must submit the oral mucosal irritation test report, and this is currently only accepted through animal testing. Also, the product design should also be based on the physiological characteristics of a child and have the following principles in mind, that it is safety as a priority for the child, that the efficacy must be necessary. So the minimum efficacy here that is advisable is cleaning, and also the formula must be as sort of designed in a minimalist way as possible. So in terms of efficacy claims, again, this is from the draft version, but actually it's the version that was issued in 2021, because the latest draft of this year in September doesn't actually specifically state what the efficacy claims are. So from this 2021 draft, we have 8 efficacy claims of cleaning, anti-caries, reduces bad breath, dental plaque inhibition, anti-dentin sensitivity, reduces gum problems, whitening, and anti-tartar. So here you can potentially submit up to 8 efficacy claims for a product. Obviously, if you do so, you will need to provide evidence for these various claims. However, as we've already discussed, for children's toothpaste, there are only 2 efficacy claims that are allowed. In terms of the evaluation that you'll need to submit with your filing is you have the microbiological, physical and chemical testing, the toxicological testing, and obviously the product safety assessment. And the efficacy evaluation report can be not only for the product, but it can also be an efficacy claim for any raw materials which specifically independently have their own claim. So you would need to submit the evaluation method, the evaluation institution, the evaluation results, any literature research, and any research data analysis that you can provide. Now, as we know, on the same date as this last draft regulation was released, we also have the simplified toothpaste notification announcement. So this was obviously, as we've said, that CSAR was issued on the 23rd of March, and that this announcement for the simplifying of the filing of listed toothpaste was released on the 25th of September. Only on the 7th of October was it actually able to create an NMPA online account specifically for toothpaste filing and registration. The deadline for these simplified filing submissions is actually the 30th of November, so time is literally running out. And the new CSAR will be in force as of the 1st of December. So any products that are currently on the market for toothpaste and that don't submit the simplified filing by the 30th of November will be under the CSAR rules, which means that the draft regulation, which is we're expecting to be published this month, will apply. And that means you will have to do a full filing or registration from then on. Well, let's take a look at what that means. So you have a precondition of actually have a selling history in China before the 30th of November 2023. And you have to be able to prove that the toothpaste sold in China has a safe use history and has no quality or safety incidents. So you can provide this through a testing report. It can be sales invoices, product inspection reports, ingredient material, raw material feeding records during the production process to prove that such an ingredient was included. You will also need to provide basic information about the product and yourselves as the applicant, such as the product name, the formula, the packing information, the manufacturer, etc. Now, as I've mentioned, the deadline is the 30th of November. And depending on whether you're applying to a provincial medical products administration or to the national one in Beijing, the department will make a basic information on those successfully filed within 5 working days after submission. And you also have a requirement to complete any filing deadlines before the 1st of July 2024 and the 1st of December 2025. And we'll take a look at this in a moment. So we have sort of a couple of scenarios here. You've got a best case scenario, which means that you complete your simplified filing before the deadline. That means that you can continue selling your products in China. And as I've mentioned, you need to complete these filings by submitting any label format updates before the 1st of July next year. And for the 1st of December 2025, you must provide your efficacy claims evidence. So it isn't required right now before the 30th of November. You must submit that before the 1st of December 2025, along with any additional filing documents, which may be your product safety assessment reports, etc., all your raw material supplier information. But please note, if the first batch of your toothpaste products has been sold in China before the 1st of January 2021, then you don't actually need to submit these additional information, but you do need to keep them on file for potential NMPA inspection. If your toothpaste product was sold after the 1st of January 2021, then you are required to provide all the supplementary information that is required in a normal filing before the 1st of December 2025. Now, if in the worst case scenario you aren't able to complete before the deadline, it means that as from the 1st of December 2023, you're no longer able to sell your toothpaste product in China. And this may be for a period of between 3 to 6 months, which is the time that it will take to prepare your full filing dossier with all of the information such as efficacy claims. So it may need to go through some efficacy testing in China. And submit and actually receive the filing certificate to be obtained before you can start selling. Now here we have a couple of little flash points. So the NMPA or the MPA will issue you a filing certificate within a sort of a week or two's notice after filing. However, as with cosmetic products, there will be a technical review during which a supplementary notice may be issued, and this may request further information, and that if you can't supply that additional information, then your filing certificate may be withdrawn. And this is equally applicable to those that are under the simplified filing process as well as under the full filing process. So here we have a few frequently asked questions. What kind of GMP certificate needs to be provided? Well, for simplified filing purposes, a GMP certificate by a third party, such as your ISO 22716, is sufficient. However, for the full filing purposes from the 1st of December, it's possible that a government-issued GMP certificate will be required to avoid any animal testing as per cosmetics. But obviously, this has to be confirmed in the final regulation. ISO 22716 will obviously always be sufficient if you don't need to avoid animal tests. What is accepted as evidence of selling history for the simplified filing? This can be sales invoices to Chinese commercial businesses. It can be online platform orders and delivery receipts to Chinese commercial businesses, such as even with Tmall, and also obviously customs clearance forms in China. But each of these obviously must include a date and ideally the company stamp, seal, or signature of the receiving company in China. Is it possible to change the domestic responsible person or agent after the simplified filing is completed? Now, at the moment, obviously, we're still under a draft regulation, but if we consider that it's similar to cosmetics, then yes, it is possible to change the local responsible person, but please be aware that there are some specific situations. So if the responsible person is in the same province, it is a very simple transfer of the filing certificates from one responsible person to another. However, if the responsible person is at the new responsible person is in a different province, so for example, you're transferring from Beijing to Shanghai, then this will require the cancellation of the certificate in Beijing and a new full filing submission in the new province. Now, because it's going through the full filing submission, then you may obviously require product and efficacy testing. Plus, please remember, because you're going through a new filing process, then it can take between 3 and 6 months to obtain that filing certificate, during which time you are not able to sell your toothpaste in China. Final example of a FAQ, is it possible to change the efficacy claims after the simplified filing is completed? Now, if it's similar to the cosmetics, and obviously we're still under the draft at the moment, then no, this isn't possible to withdraw an efficacy claim once it's been submitted, unless you can't provide evidence of that particular claim, at which point the NMPA or the MPA will then remove the efficacy claim from your product. So how can we help? Urgent actions obviously need to be taken for the simplified filing. You need to appoint a DRA or local responsible person and open an NMPA online account. Now, ideally, this should be done before the 12th of November. We would provide you, as your local responsible person, a checklist and templates for document submissions. You'll need to obviously have your letter of authorization and power of attorney for your local responsible person. It needs to be notarized, and obviously that needs to be ideally done before the 10th of November. Please note that the NMPA generally takes about 2 weeks to authorize an account. Now, we have heard that the NMPA is obviously prioritizing toothpaste because of the urgency of the deadlines. So it may be obviously quicker than 2 weeks, but obviously there is a big rush for a lot of toothpaste companies to get this done in time. So we obviously can't guarantee, hence why we advise you to be aiming for the deadline to submit for the opening of an NMPA account by the 12th of November. Then you need to obviously be preparing your filing dossier. The official deadline, obviously, is the 30th of November. However, we would advise that any local responsible person in China, such as ourselves, receives any documentation by the 23rd of November, that we can then obviously conduct a full check and make sure everything is correct. And that then we would submit that to the system by the latest of the 27th of November, because that gives us enough time to amend anything just in case. Obviously, we need to collect and review and discuss and confirm your dossier with you, and translate and finalize the application and submit it. And obviously, we would do that ideally as soon as the NMPA online account is opened, and not wait until the last minute. Finally, you will receive, hopefully, your approval. That means that you can continue selling in China, but obviously, as we've already mentioned, there are deadlines to complete filings. We would send you the approval. Then you have obviously proof that you have your filing certificate. And obviously you need to enter your consignees of any shipment into the NMPA online system, so that they can actually be authorized to receive any shipments that you send. And obviously at this point in time, you need to start post-market surveillance and your cosmetovigilance, which is very important to ensure that your product can stay on the market. And obviously you need to start the sample retention, which needs to be with your legal agent in China for each production batch that is sent to China. So, other cosmetic services that we provide, obviously, as a China Regulatory Affairs consultant, we can act as your local responsible person, help you with customs clearance, help you with your general and special cosmetic and ingredient filings and registrations, and obviously what we've been discussing today, your toothpaste filing, help you with your product safety assessment reports and undertake any cosmetic and ingredient testing in China, as well as assist any raw material manufacturers for their cosmetic ingredient code applications. In terms of quality compliance, because obviously toothpaste is under the CSAR, and it is also subject to the cosmetic good manufacturing practices that came into effect on the 1st of July last year. We can assist you with identifying a gap and undertaking a gap analysis, adapting to these Chinese standards. We can also undertake pre-audits of yourselves as the registrant, as well as your manufacturer, whether that is in China or overseas, as well as train your staff on the implications of the GMP. And obviously, we can help you with any assistance for official NMPA inspections in China and overseas. So I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. And we will be very happy to share with you the recording of this video, as well as the slides. So please do send us an email. You can see my email address there, victoria.caldi@cizema.com. Obviously, if you have any questions further down the line, please do get in touch. You can see my mobile number there, or you can obviously email your questions to me. So want to wish you all the very best for your filing applications for toothpaste in China, and we'd be very happy to help you. Thank you very much.